Entitled mother claims I stole her valuables and calls the police. Backstory, my mom and her friend are very close. Same goes for her 10-year-old son and me. We hang out with each other almost every weekend. So the time that this occurred was on a weekend as well. A couple days before the lockdown started in my country. We were in a mall and my mom and her friend wanted to go shopping. Typical. And there was this lounge where frequent shoppers could relax and stuff. Usually, me and her son go to the lounge and chill. But this time, we were kinda bored so decided to go outside and sit on a bench. Cue the entitled mother. The conversation goes like this at the bench. Entitled mother, excuse me darling, could you please get off this bench so that my daughter could rest here? We are really tired. Now, I'm not really in a rush or whatever, so I just agreed. I was just playing on my phone, so I didn't care so much. We headed towards the lounge. We showed our IDs. You had to show a specific ID to enter, and we just sat on one of the lounge chairs. Me and my friend were playing the same game, so we were just chilling and enjoying, while my mom and her friend went on a shopping spree. Totally normal weekend, right? Not until I met the devil incarnate a few minutes ago. She heads into the lounge, saying I'm a friend of OP. You should let me and my daughter in. One of the lounge employees asks, do you know that lady? I just replied, no. Anyway, I had to go to the restroom, but there wasn't one in the lounge, so I had to head outside and go to the restroom. Once I'm done, I meet the entitled kid. Entitled kid, hey, can I play on your phone? Mommy doesn't allow me to play on her phone. Me, I'm very sorry, but I can't let you have my phone. Entitled kid please? Pretty please? Me, I'm sorry. She kept on asking, but I ignored her and headed back to the lounge. Well, guess what? After not even a few minutes, her mom came in the lounge. Entitled kid, that's the boy, mommy. Entitled mom, why are you not giving my daughter your phone? Me, well, it is my phone. I don't want to give it to her. It is my first phone that I bought with my own pocket money, so I'm really careful about it. Entitled mom, well, you've played enough. Go play on your bratty friend's phone instead. Me, no. And why would I? I don't even know you. Plus you called my friend bratty. Entitled mom, I don't care. Give me the phone right now or else I'll call the police. Me, yeah, right. Call the police. I dare you. She called the police and told that they'll be here any moment. At first, I was kinda scared. But since I'm not wrong, I didn't actually care later on. While she is calling the police, her daughter takes a gold chain from her mother's purse and drops it on my lap. And guess what she said? Entitled kid, mommy, he stole your gold chain. Entitled mom, what? How dare you? Now I'll be calling the security as well. Security, he stole my necklace. Help, he's harassing my daughter. The guards rushed in. Everybody was looking at us. I stood there with my friend, both of us equally embarrassed. Security, is this true? Did you attempt to steal this woman's valuables? Nice friend, no, we didn't do anything. We were just sitting here, and this woman asks OP for his phone. Me, yeah. You can check the camera if you want. The look on entitled mom's face was priceless. She tried to walk away, but the security stopped her. They saw the footage and kicked them out of the mall. They never came back, or at least I never saw them again. Thanks for reading. Entitled Great Aunt Steals from Grandchildren After Funeral. Updated. I'm reposting this story as I have an update. That is some great karma to that whole piece of the family, if they are even called that now. I'm copying most of it here, but fixing some details and timing. TL. Doctor at the bottom. This one is sad. It's about my grandmother, the matriarch of the family, and the fallout from her death. My grandma was an amazing lady. She finished school in the 60s, had 4 boys she raised. After kicking her trashy husband to the curb and moving away, went through nursing school while raising her tots, and made her mark as the sassy badass everyone just loved to be around. She loved peppers, golden earrings and bracelets, and showering her grandkids with only the very best. But hell hath no fury, because she would swat your hand and call you a knucklehead if you made her cross with you. At the very least, She had a state that could scare a bull, but hugs that just felt lovely. Another thing she loved almost as much as us was her amazing collection of dolls. Not creepy horror movie type, but the most beautiful kind. She collected porcelains, celebrity recreations, Cabbage Patch Kids, and annual holiday Barbies. Everywhere in her house were shelves upon shelves of these gorgeous, dreamlike dolls that looked so detailed down to the clothing stitches. She'd taught me mending and sewing, even face repainting, to care for these dolls, and gave me stories of how she got each of them. Everyone that knew her knew those were her world outside of her family, and she wanted nothing more than to pass it all down. Now for important characters. I never liked my father. He regrets my existence despite spawning my older sister from previous posts here, but he is one of the boys. My grandmother had 3 sisters and a brother, not in the story. See the kind accountant, Elle the softie, and our rim of the tail, the witch aunt. Yay. Back to the story. At the end of my junior year, she became very ill from cancer she kept hidden from us kids. She died after settling what she could despite being told to rest, further reminding us and the doctors she couldn't be told what to do. When she passed, her funeral was like a local celebrity died. Giant wreaths, meals, a crowd of hospital staff and patients, neighbors, people from her long life, and anyone that could showed up for weeks before and after. Because my father drove his kids, we'd as just my sister, I didn't make the wake and burial, but my mother drove me to the repast. Imagine a big dinner party celebrating those who you knew in life. With all the commotion and this being a big hit to everyone, estates and so on went unmentioned. 3 weeks go by and enters EA, flipping a massive bad to her memory. My uncle, grandma's youngest, went to her room finally to get things of hers settled, having let family in and out of the house for weeks, but never having a reason to look in the room. What he saw was insane. Her dolls, all but a few clean, less expensive looking, or fabric types, actually her favorites, were gone or damaged. Her Sunday best, gold jewelry silk nightgowns, and even photo albums were gone. Even her wall photos were gone. They cleaned her out. He was angry and crushed, so he called anyone who would answer asking where things were. This led to people calling each other to find out what happened and who they would be burning at the stake. When it got to the new matriarchy, she called her sisters. Elle was broken up about it, but EA hung up on her mid-sentence. Red flags went flying up. C whips out her phone and asks one of her kids, adults, and ex for this, who stupidly said, "Oh, we took all that stuff a few days ago." Apparently, while my uncle was socked in his room over his mother's passing, EA used her house visit with all of her ex and took hold over everything she could possibly get her hands on and wanted, all in the name of keeping her memory in the family. Her excuses then turned more to blaming us for not calling dibs, not sharing with her niece and nephew, and first come first serve as it got into people's being upset. Safe to say that the dozen plus other grandchildren, especially I who helped mend these dolls for years, were ready to go for her head. We had a few stalemates though. 1. There was no will to split the collection or anything else, as she had faith in all of us to be civil. 2. We only had one person's word and hints from others. Nothing solid to hand to police. 3. The only people who knew where her new home were her kids, already scouting eBay prices, and my sister who had good graces with her and got her bit of the pool. Livid but unresolved, people settled on letting things that didn't truly want go. A few months later, Aunt C calls my mom while I'm in another connected room. She tells her that when checking the bank account to remove my grandmother's name, she saw something awful. My great-grandmother, another great woman, squirreled money and passed it in a shared account to her children for this and so on. It was agreed they would save them for their future kids and soon grandchildren for education, the money nesting where it lay, until the paperwork she pulled up showed this shared account holder moving money from center to herself over the years. My grandma never touched it. It turns out, to add to the shamelessness, EA had been padding her divorced alimony income and bailing her kids out of jail and flunked college courses for years. Pooh. Hit the fan. Folks called to her, yelling and shouting through tears, and asking why her own sister, the entire entitled herd, had to cut themselves off and was since exiled. This was over 7 years ago. People don't even talk about him. and remember my grandmother in memory, using me as a human Rolodex for what dolls she had before they were taken. I have her fabric dolls, and I'm currently finding replacements for all her 1997 dolls she had for me. Also seeking out ball jointed dolls to replace the need for hundreds of porcelains. It's calm again, as in no yelling. Why is this important? You may ask, and good question. We were told the payouts for out inherited money was age 22. Last year was mine, so I got a check. $2.54. But wait. Where is the karma? Here it is. The long-awaited karma of being stuck in a house with jailbirds and entitled kids for months can do. You see, EA reached out to C for money. Apparently after the incident of the money being drained, the remaining family heads made their own separate account to save again, and the bit left in the original was what my and others' checks came from. Now out of cash and blocked by everyone that would gladly hit her with a brick if they saw her. Her lifestyle dwindled significantly to the point of moving in one of her less destructive, involved in the doll heist, daughters to help bills, not knowing her work was an MLM. The money made from selling the dolls had run dry from their lavish spending, sending the ex back to her with their hands out. They broke into tantrums, but one by one piled into her house, running scams and collecting government checks and child support until quarantine. These scammers couldn't help themselves and tried selling cheap masks at high cost, fake sanitizers, and so on, all while being trashy and posting half nude asking for donations. 2 of her kids were arrested for soliciting fake goods, 1 caught for welfare fraud claiming kids she didn't care for, and 1 left selling MLM, while EA's grandkids scream and run like chickens on shrooms. Basically, she's in one loud, broke hell. EA pleaded for the money to make the mortgage or she would have to stoop to working. C says she sighed and said with the emptiest voice she could, like our sister. There was silence before EA hung up. While I was out picking up some materials in a catering supply store, there in the lot was EA, aged horribly and pushing carts in a parking lot. No shade to this job, but to see this awful woman go from stealing from the dead to working the first time in her life, I felt victory. Grandma may not have gotten those dolls to us, but this woman was her spirits to play with. TL. Doctor, entitled Aunt and Kids steal lifelong collection and funds from family matriarchs after their passing, spends profits at the cost of their family, and is now broke, and working for the first time at 70. Entitled Aunt pushes to adults who just were attacked to the brink of mental insanity. I've been wanting to put this on here, so buckle up because this one is a wild ride. So I, 23-year-old female, lived with my mom, grandma, sister, mom's friend, and my then boyfriend, 23-year-old male, now fiance. My mom was not the best mother and I could post my entire life story on r/raised by narcissist, but that's for another day. My mom was going off on me one day because she didn't like how my sister and I were loyal to my grandma and not her. My mom would work long hours and wouldn't spend time with us, so we were basically raised by my grandma. Anyways, when I was 21 she finally snapped. She grabbed me by the back of my head and I called to my fiancé for help. He got her off me and grabbed her wrist and wouldn't let go, even though my mom repeatedly told him to. So after maybe 3 or 4 times of her telling him to let go, she grabbed his neck and dug her nails in. I ripped her arm off, and his neck was bleeding a lot. Cops were called, and more BS happened. I ended up living with my aunt and uncle with my grandma and fiancé. My sister had been taken into foster care and my mom was behind bars. My mom eventually got charged for 2 counts of assault and 1 count of child endangerment. Now, I was the only person who was extremely hesitant to live with my uncle and aunt, because my uncle isn't the nicest person on the planet. He would yell at me and hit me when I was 2, and he was 17. Everyone told me that I should be appreciative of what he's doing, so I kept my thoughts to myself. After a week of living with them, their colors began to show. My fiancé has autism, and they made fun of him for it a lot. They gave us an extensive chore list, pretty much the whole house plus cooking and yard work. He couldn't remember them all, so we wrote a list, and they told him he wasn't a man because he needed a list, because God forbid he forgot a chore. They would yell at him until he cried. They would then scream at me for picking this pathetic loser. I color sometimes, and I had just started a new project. I was so into it that hours would go by and I wouldn't notice. My uncle tried to talk to me and I had headphones in, so I didn't hear him. He ripped them out and yelled, "You need to listen to me, you bitch." It got to the point where I couldn't feel anything anymore. I would call my godmother and tell her what was going on. My cousin heard me and told her mom I was talking shit behind their back. Well, how was I punished? My fiance was kicked out in the middle of summer, where a normal day could be 110. He lived in a car for a month before I could escape. By the time we found a place, he had heat stroke twice, was 120 pounds, he's 6'5", and was mentally destroyed. We now live in a small house with my dog, 2 cats and 2 birds happily, and my aunt got cancer after we left.